Good evening, Buckeyes, and we're coming to the biggest game of the year, our biggest test so far, and we had the perfect game leading up to it. Ohio State Notre Dame this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The whole world will be watching. It's the biggest game at that time, so that's a good thing. But heading into the Western Kentucky game, a lot of people had a lot of concerns, and rightfully so. And yes, I get it. It's just Western Kentucky. And, Western Kentucky has a really terrible defense. So, what can we take offensively from Western Kentucky? Probably not much, other than the fact, I will say, on many occasions, the line was in the right spot. And believe it or not, even if you're playing a really good defensive line, if you're in the right spot, you have the chance to make the right play. And that's really the major thing that I kept saying, because people kept saying our offensive line was terrible. Our offensive line just needs to be in the right spot. I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's inexperienced and that it hasn't gelled yet. So hopefully, playing a weaker team gave us time to work on gelling a little bit more. And we did the right things. Our run blocking was better. I want to give a shout out again to Corey Fleming. Fleming blocked and he stuffed people into lockers. He opened up lanes, and because of his blocking, we got touchdowns. If anyone remembers, all the way back to the 2014 game against Alabama, we had that 85-yard run from Ezekiel Elliott. The difference between a touchdown and a 5 or 6 yard gain was the block that was thrown by our wide receiver in that game. The same wide receiver that threw the touchdown earlier in the game when we tried that trickeration on Alabama. Yes, I know I'm bringing back up a past game, but I say that because if we're going to run on Notre Dame, our wide receivers need to stuff people into lockers again. Now, again, it's Fleming. Fleming is the one that keeps doing it. I will say that Cade Stover had a good block on one of those touchdown runs as well. So shout out to him because he's been underperforming in his blocking. But Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, I don't mean to keep shouting you out, but you got to do better. Emeka Egbuka did get a really good block in that game, so I want to give credit where it's due, but he also had a really bad holding call called on him that brought a run back. So, just some things to do better on offense. If we block and if our wide receivers block, if we can average 5-6 yards per carry, we can keep moving the rock. And that will keep our passing game open. Of course, our wide receivers are difficult to cover. You saw several occasions on the last few games where they tried to double team Marvin Harrison Jr., and he still got behind them. They couldn't even double team him effectively. So there's lots of potential with that. But as far as our offense goes, I feel pretty good about it. Kyle McCord has so far, let's see. Sorry, he has 815 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He has an 87.2 QBR, and that's 9th in the country. So, yeah, it's not like top in the country like we've been used to, but it's not bad considering when you look at Sam Hartman's numbers for this game. He has 1,061 yards, and I mean, they haven't really played many marquee games. The biggest team that they played was North Carolina State. And he has 13 touchdowns so far with an 89.4 QBR. He's 6th, but a lot of people talk about him like he is one of the best quarterbacks, but the numbers really aren't too far apart except for the touchdown passes. So the main thing that we need to look at with the Western Kentucky game is our defense. And I know, again, people are going to say, well, it's just Western Kentucky. Nobody's heard of them. Okay, but here's the thing. When it comes to Western Kentucky, they've been number 1 since the year 2021 on offense. Be that as it may, their competition is a lower level, but at the same time, they've played some pretty decent teams pretty tough throughout the seasons. And the experience came back that was from last year. So the fact that our defense held them from getting more than 10 points was huge. And I feel pretty good about what I saw out of the defense. I think that we're at a different level because if you remember correct, we played a really bad Arkansas State team last week, and we gave up all kinds of yards. We gave up crazy scores. It was always that slant play last year. Michigan kind of sent their wide receiver down the field, across the field, and we had Jack Sawyer covering him, and that's when they got that long touchdown run because Jack Sawyer cannot run with a wide receiver. And those kinds of mistakes were happening even against lower opponents like Arkansas State. That was showing up even against the lesser opponents. So far, even against the lesser opponents, that hasn't showed up this year. So we're going to find out a lot about our defense. But as far as like Western Kentucky goes, we only gave up 15 first downs. But here's the big thing, because everybody kept saying our third down efficiency has been bad. 3 of 15 third down efficiency, 3 of 6 fourth down efficiency, 50%. And you got to give them credit for taking chances. We didn't know that they would do that. They did that on their end of the field. So that surprised us. We had 562 total yards. So we were very balanced. 358 passing yards. And we had 204 rushing yards. When it comes to Western Kentucky, there was no balance. They had under 100 yards rushing. They only had 204 yards passing. For the number one offense, holding them under 300 yards is pretty good. But the most important thing, we've only given up 20 points through 3 games. And I don't care who you are, less than 7 points per game average is pretty good. So I am happy about that. Okay, so as far as our matchup this week, first off, I want to say, Notre Dame, congratulations on a good season so far. I do respect you as an opponent. You're coming into this game and you feel very confident, and I don't blame you. You're at home. You're going to have the home crowd. We haven't played them at home since the 90s, so this is going to be a new environment. So Notre Dame has every right to feel confident. And the big difference between playing against Notre Dame this year and playing against them last year is that Notre Dame still has the ground and pound. And they still want to control the clock. Notre Dame's always been like that. But last year, they didn't have the quarterback to convert some of those third downs. This year they do. Sam Hartman is really good. He's a very good quarterback, and he will keep his team in every game that he plays, which means if we're playing a tight game with Notre Dame, it's going to come down to our ability to drive down the field and dictate the speed of the game. And we have to do that by being able to run on them. Their defensive line is pretty good, and for sure they have good linebackers and a solid secondary. So in my opinion, the defense is still their best part of their offense, or of their team, excuse me. Their offense is also pretty good, though. They have, I believe their top running back has 521 yards. His name's Estime. He has 521 yards so far. He's halfway to 1,000 just going into the 4th game. That's impressive. I don't care who you are and who you've played. That's pretty impressive. Their top wide receiver is C. Tyree. He has 216 receiving yards so far. And their top linebacker, Jay Kaiser, he's had 26 tackles. And they have one interception on defense. So they're definitely going to be fired up. They do have a little bit of running back by committee like we do, but Estime is far and above the rest of them. Jay Love has 119 yards, and then they have Payne and Price, who have also performed well, each at 76 yards. So they are doing something similar to what we're doing with our running backs. Being that our top running back doesn't have near 500 yards. But Travion Henderson figures to have a chance at his best game of the season, I would say. You know, it just, but the big thing is that everybody's trying to see out of the Buckeyes is, can they run between the tackles against a good team? Because Travion Henderson has 30 carries for 191 yards, 4 touchdowns, 6.4 yards per carry. But one of the most amazing things about the last game is we had 9.4 yards per play. And I don't care who you're up against. If you get 9.4 yards per play, you're in position or likely winning the game big, one of the two. Our next running back is Chip Trayanum. He has 19 carries for 133 yards, 1 touchdown. Now he's averaging 7 yards per carry, and he's the perfect guy to run right up the gut at a team. He's a big guy. He can run through tackles, and he's also got enough speed that if he breaks a couple of tackles, he's going to the end zone. So I really like Chip Trayanum, and a lot of fans think that he's our best. But right now, Travion Henderson still has the best skill. Like when you compare the two running backs, Chip Trayanum doesn't have that like sidestep, juke move that Travion Henderson. I'm not saying that he can't, but I'm saying Travion Henderson's better at it. I also would like to say about Travion Henderson, please be careful jumping over players. You've done it twice already. You're going to get yourself hurt. So it looks fun. Like people love seeing that on the highlights, but as a Buckeye fan, I would prefer you not do it. Please, please, for the sake of our team and the synchronicity of our offense, please stop trying to jump over players. Thank you. Anyways, our third running back is Mayan Williams. He has 18 carries for 73 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.1 average. Mayan Williams hasn't really shown through the way we were hoping. I do think that he might be a little bit banged up. That might be why. But, when you compare the two teams, they seem pretty evenly matched overall. Right now, we're favored by 3 points on the road. So Notre Dame's actually a home dog. So that shows you that if we were at home, we'd probably be about a touchdown favorite. So, but all the experts think because they're at home, it's going to be pretty close. It could go either way. And there's a few things that Ohio State needed to work on this week. One of them, Kyle McCord had that play where he allowed a fumble, and that was on him because we had wide receiver Emeka Egbuka was open down the field. He had him. All he had to do is throw it. He hesitated, and we got the strip sack. But the thing about that is after that, he was motivated. So he made the mistake. It's almost like he had his coming together party or his baptism by fire. And what he did was he went on the sideline, and instead of putting his head down, he went back out there and said, we're doing this. And he showed his leadership. That's really what we need. We need that leadership. And if Kyle McCord can do that, we can come out with a victory against Notre Dame. I think we should beat Notre Dame. I feel like we have... when it comes to the skill positions, we have an advantage. And when it comes to our defense, I think our defense will make a huge difference. And that's why I think Ohio State will slightly edge Notre Dame, just like the experts are picking. I believe that our team is ready for this game, and I think this is going to be a fun game. What is everyone else's thoughts on this game? Notre Dame fans, do you feel confident as we do? I think you do. This is what college football is all about. Win or lose, this game is a huge game for both teams. And the nice thing about scheduling a huge game like this is at the end of the season, they're going to say, yes, they won against a really good team. So that's why they could potentially get in the playoffs, Like they'll be like, oh, this team played a tough team in their offseason. They had 3 more hard games in conference. That's a great resume. And the team that loses, they're going to be like, they have 1 loss, but it's to a really good team. And, that shouldn't knock them out of contention. So both teams should still be in good position out of this game. But Obviously, being a Buckeye fan, I can accept no less than a victory. I think most Buckeye fans would agree. I believe in my Buckeyes. I believe we're going to win. I believe the defense is the thing that's way different from what it's been in the past few years. Look, we had 4 turnovers on defense last week, and there was one fumble that was almost ours. So we could have had a 5th turnover, but that wasn't to be. Nevertheless, what do I want to see out of the Buckeyes? I want to see our defensive line running over people like last week. They were running through people. They were getting the tackles. They were getting interceptions. They were getting fumbles. They were doing everything. They were playing like they had that extra gear. And if they have that juice again, that's why I think we'll win. But they must have that juice. That juice made a difference, and I've been saying it all season. What's been missing from the offense? They were sleepwalking. It's not good to play down to competition. We all agree on that. But it's pretty evident after the Western Kentucky game, who I think might be the best team that we've played so far, that the juice made the difference. They were excited to play. They didn't look so excited to play the first 2 games. They looked like it was just like, we're going to win this game no matter what. So I don't think we're going to see that happen against Notre Dame at all. I think they're going to be juiced up. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be ready to win. The Buckeyes can get us a victory this weekend. I have full faith. I think the Buckeyes will win by at least 3 points, just like the odds makers are saying. But I'm going to predict that we win 34-17. That's what I think we'll win by. But, it could be very close, just like the odds makers say. Could be just 3 points. That would be really nerve-wracking, so let's hope not. But, 34-17, I think it'll be like 20-17 in the fourth quarter, and we'll pull away at the very end of the game. That's my prediction. My last prediction, I was way off. We still won, but I was way off. And our defense was better than my last prediction. I haven't been making predictions on these lower tier games. It's not really all that worth it. But 34-17, I believe we're up by a field goal till late in the fourth quarter, and then we pull away. What are your thoughts? Are we going to win this game? Do you think Notre Dame pulls a victory on us? I don't believe they will, but that's what makes me a fan. All right, all I have to say to end this stream is, go Buckeyes!